What is to be said about dead malls that has not already been said? What more can be drawn out on the subject of endless prosperity's bloated corpse? The shopping mall was once the central hub of commercial and often social life. Its broad avenues and lengthy corridors heralded a new era of happiness at the swipe of a card. But what is a shopping mall really? The Greek philosopher Plato posited in his theory of forms that we can recognize perfection in an object because of a shared reference point to a perfect version in a higher plane. Is there a platonically ideal shopping mall somewhere in the heavens with just the right number of levels, food courts, and amusements? No. The shopping mall is a removed form of something far larger in expanse and scope. Shopping malls are the penultimate avatar of consumerism. I say penultimate because malls are dying and being replaced. But in their heyday, these cultural hubs served as temples where congregants could prostrate their wallets before the gods of the New Hope. Let's examine for a moment when most shopping malls were built. With few exceptions, most shopping malls were constructed approximately between the years 1970 and 2000. In this same era, American industry exfiltrated the Rust Belt and made its journey overseas. Moreover, suburbs, which had slowly been siphoning populations from city centers, bloomed in size and scope. The landscape before these changes consisted of small urban neighborhoods and downtown apartments being serviced by stores on the main thoroughfare of the city. Many of these businesses were owned by local operators that the customers knew. This was consumerism's form at that time. America's civic religion consists of eternal faith in the markets and their inexorable upward rise. If the special numbers on Wall Street start going down, our financial Aztec priests must sacrifice someone on the altar to satiate the powers that be. In the 1970s, industry was on the chopping block in pursuit of ever greater profits and lower prices. And so it all went overseas. In tandem, these new cheap products needed a new space to be venerated and genuflected upon. Shopping malls fit the bill, and wrested the avatar of consumerism from downtown department stores and locally owned shops in favor of capitalism's newest revelation. Here we see a layer of humanity stripped from the activity of consumerism. No longer were the things you bought made and sold by people you knew, but rather made by slaves thousands of miles away, and sold in vast pleasure centers full of nationwide chains. But even in this iteration, there remained an element of the human. Shopping was still a social event and was often done with groups. A meal was shared, products were consumed, and everyone looked forward to the next weekend when they could do it all again. The dream of the shopping mall's apex is perfectly encapsulated in Francis Fukuyama's The End of History and The Last Man. This book has the central conclusion that after the fall of the Soviet Union, liberal democratic societies would eventually, via globalism, deconstruct national boundaries and old prejudices. A new era of world peace and the end of history as we know it would be brought to a former totalitarian country near you. Such was the attitude of the time, that people actually believed him. They so desperately wanted to believe that history, famine, wars, and strife would be a thing of the past. The dream of the 90s sustained itself until the idea came crashing down with the World Trade Centers. This event shattered the idea that world peace was just a monetary transaction away. While 9/11 alone could not dismantle the shopping mall, it caused a key fault line in the cultural foundations of mall shopping. The world could not be placated with goods, and the emperor had no clothes. Yet the shopping mall endured until the 2008 financial crisis. In concert with the crisis came a far more existential threat to the mall's primacy: online shopping.
As soon as I learned to type Amazon.com, I could get my way to about 2,500,000 books, so it was remarkably easy.
I can look up such as Mediterranean cooking, and I find 57 books on the subject.
Amazon.com gives such great discounts that even with the shipping, you come out ahead. I like not standing in line. Instead of standing in line, I just sit here and punch one button, and my book's on the way.
By the time of the economic downturn, various online retailers were quickly absorbing market share. In the cult of consumerism, the temple could now be right in your own home. It was a more perfect platonic ideal of consumerism than what the mall could ever be. It was time for a new revelation. Keeping with the trend of increasing dehumanization and increased consumption, now customers could get their dopamine rush from the comfort of their own home without pesky human interaction. Just as malls displaced the personal relationships of Main Street, the internet displaced the last vestiges of humanity from consumerism. When one visits malls, one often remarks on how sad it is to see all the stores go out of business. This is the wrong reason to linger in dead malls. Dead malls are so much more than a graveyard of rotting retailers. Malls are a crypt for the dead dreams of an optimistic society, confident that its model would end the evils of the world. What we see in the architecture of these dead malls is an epitaph to the pre-9/11 world when commerce would conquer the earth. But this model failed, and sacrifices had to be made, and a new model had to assume the avatar of consumerism, ever chasing that dream at the end of the capitalistic rainbow. I come to dead malls to reflect on the course of our culture and the increasing atomization of its members. Especially in the wake of the coronavirus, this trend is accelerating. More and more business is conducted absent of human relationships. Social cohesion hinges on knowing one another and working with one another. What will retail be in the future? Is the internet the apex of platonic consumerism? I doubt it. Given the past 50 years, we can expect the trends to continue. What form may this take? That is the realm of prophets and speculators. All we know for sure is that it will be less human and more consuming. What's left is just eyes without a face, retail without a space.